everyone. This is ICO Talk. My name is Yelena. Today my guest is Stani Kulechov, the founder of ETHLend. Good afternoon, Stani. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Yelena.
So, okay, first of all, as we can see from the name of the company, this is an Ethereum-based platform, lending system. Will you please tell us exactly how it works?
Yeah, so it's ETHLend is basically a decentralized lending application that's built on top of the Ethereum network. So basically what do we actually have is a smart contract that basically acts as the agreement between the lenders and the borrowers. And the idea is that these borrowers can actually pledge tokens to receive funding in the form of Ethereum. And it's ideal at the moment, for example, traders who want to, for example, they are holding a long position on some token, for example, that they don't want to sell that token, and they still want to use that liquidity in other trading transactions, or people who want to short sell Ethereum. And as soon as we are at KYC, actually the amount of collateral isn't that decisive. So basically we're creating the global lending market where one person can, with a single loan request, get finance from each and every country. Well, not in each and every, but basically all parts of the world. And basically lenders from different countries are competing to give the borrower the best interest rate there is.
Okay, I see. And when did you start the project?
Well, it was in our heads, I think, last year, but kind of to get the idea on the paper and to develop, we started in early January, and then we worked for a few months and actually deployed the test application to Kovan testnet on Ethereum, and that was late April. And with some testing and auditing, we actually launched in early May on the Ethereum mainnet, and we have kind of a prototype application there. So that was something that we wanted to do before we actually write the white paper, because we wanted to actually know how this kind of lending application will be, because it's usually easier to write on a paper, but when you start to develop these functions that you actually have promised or you see be fit, they don't actually, it's not that easy when you're dealing with the blockchain and Ethereum as it is in this current state.
Sure. And who do you consider to be your main competitors on this market?
I think at the moment there isn't other applications, but there are projects. For example, there's salt lending that are coming in an application. I'm not sure when, but I consider them as a kind of good competitor that we can actually compare, because they have a good team as well, and then basically they are working hard, and that's kind of a good comparison to us. And the function is quite different compared to ETHLend, because they actually release fiat money for crypto, and we kind of are staying in the crypto world and trying to deal there and make opportunities there for people who actually are using cryptocurrencies and digital assets like tokens. But
what is your main advantage over your competitors?
I think our main advantage is that we're so far in the code. I think if you take a look at our GitHub repository, we can find one of the most sophisticated smart contracts there is at the moment in the dApp ecosystem. They are better, I won't say better, but they are like more advanced. I mean, lending, for example, EtherDelta, the decentralized exchange, they have quite advanced code, but it's not public. The last stuff I have seen is over a year old. But kind of lending transactions are more complex than exchange transactions. So in that way, we have quite complex stuff there. And we're actually implementing Ethereum Name Service collaterals, and that can be used. So it's pretty, I think like a working prototype is the advantage that we have, and a good team that we're 25 people there, not all developers, but people around the world. And actually we have more touch on the local markets. So I think that's something that's quite advantageous for us.
Okay, and as far as you've mentioned your team, tell us please a few words about it.
Well, our team is quite special because I think the project, when we found it, we were like a bunch of few persons that we're actually excited about like smart contracts and kind of developing finance applications. And suddenly we were getting more and more people involved from different parts of the world. And the difference between other teams is that we're actually not that funded. I mean, we started with zero capital, and we didn't actually have the funding. We're working on some might be a researcher in for example, in blockchain center in Frankfurt and so forth. So the team is kind of down to earth, but still we weren't like that funded in the beginning. And after basically the pre-sale, we were like having more opportunities to actually market ourselves. So we raised in the pre-sale, I think was a bit over 600,000 USD with almost zero marketing. So I think that was from us, like from our backgrounds, I think that was quite a big achievement, because we are not like the top-notch blockchain people with good name, but we are like people with good talent. So I think there's a big difference there in terms of marketing.
Okay, what about the famous names? So about the advisory board, do you have any famous people in the team?
Well, I think our most famous people there are John Matonis. He's the founder of the Bitcoin Foundation. And then we have Rob Viglione, who's founder of the Zencash. So that's kind of, I think like in terms of advisory board, we are quite blessed in that sense that we are getting like good advices, and we have so diverse advisory boards. So we don't have like only big names there, but we have diverse people with different kinds of backgrounds. And we're lucky to have actually Wolf Kahl as well, who is actually a professor in the, his background is in finance and law. He has worked in I think it was Goldman Sachs and the Kravat law firm in New York, and is currently teaching smart contracts and law in US. So it's quite diverse, and also we're introducing a new guy on next week. It's something that we want to. We usually, like before we introduce anyone, we kind of have these discussions, kind of what is ETHLend is, and what are the direction that we supposed to go, and kind of have this sort of I would call it more of a pre-feedback session before we go further. So I think with the advisor we are quite blessed.
Okay, I see. And I know you also have a very interesting partnership with other blockchain project that is called Bloom. Will you please tell us about that?
Yeah, well, Bloom is there. These guys are quite interesting. These are students from they are all graduated, but young guys from Stanford actually, and they're creating this way to actually present your credit rating on the blockchain. So basically, if it's in US, they use FICO. There's Equifax, and we have in Finland our own kind of credit rating system here. So basically, we can represent these on the blockchain, and if the lender if the borrower defaults, this can be actually broadcasted back to the credit agency, and this default can get registered. So it helps us basically to provide loans without collaterals. So it makes quite nice, and we are creating this decentralized credit rating system where actually we will have like their EU port, for example. Bloom is one of these kind of gateways that we have. So I think like in future, like the whole credit profile, it's more than just what your credit company says, because like most of the youngsters, people under 30 years old, they cannot rely only on the credit ratings, because they have like so fresh credit history. So I think this brings a lot of good opportunities for the borrowers as well.
Okay, let's now proceed to the ICO. First of all, do you have a pre-sale? And secondly, what is the soft cap and what is the hard cap?
Yeah, so basically what we had a pre-sale. It was 25th of September. We sold 6% of the whole cap that we have. So it was 6, whereas we sold Lend token on amount of 2,000 Ether. So it was roughly over 600 USD back then. And I think like we're having next Saturday, not this week, but next week, the 25th of November, we're having actually the official token sale, and we will be selling Lend tokens worth of 27,600 ETH. So our cap is in dollars, like $12.5 million. So we don't have like a soft or hard cap. We actually have a plain roadmap, and basically, if we reach the cap, we will develop the whole roadmap as we have there. But if we don't reach the full cap, then basically there are some extra features that we will basically not develop according to the roadmap. But if we still have funds left, then we will develop those functions.
Okay, then tell us about the roadmap, please.
Well, the roadmap is pretty interesting. We will have there, for example, fiat-pegged loans. So basically, instead of like there's issues like with the volatility. For example, if you borrow, you lend me Ether. So basically, I can't spend it in real life. For example, if I go to buy something and I will pay you back, if the Ether price will go up, then basically I will have to pay huge amount of interest back. So what we are kind of adding as an alternative is that you can actually take the price of the Ether, and well, actually to use some like a fiat currency price, for example, USD or Euro or pounds, for example. So instead of me borrowing from you 1 Ether, I actually will borrow 100 USD worth of Ether and return you back 100 USD worth of Ether plus interest. So I will not suffer the basically volatility here. And another thing that we are actually developing is the lending with Bitcoin, for example, that will come. That's huge opportunity for us. And also token borrowing. So actually when people can borrow tokens, for example, I can borrow ES tokens, I can borrow OmiseGo or any ERC20 token. I can actually first time in the effectively first time to gain make a profit from market that is going down way, because usually like in currencies and this trading, you actually you're profiting when the market goes down and when you realize the positions. But when you are borrowing the tokens and you're doing short selling, you can actually also profit when the market goes down. So basically this creates traders opportunity to then actually profit from all directions of the market. It's same as selling short selling stocks, but it will come to the cryptocurrencies, and there's like a lot of additional interesting features. For example, the KYC. So when we have the KYC, we can build basic reputation, and we don't need to have like the borrowers.
Excuse me, KYC.
Yeah.
What is it?
KYC is know your customer. So basically, when people, when we can identify people that who are our borrowers and lenders, then we actually can enforce the loans. For example, if we have, because currently our lending is address to address, similar as a shapeshift where you change the one currency to another. And as we have basically one person, one address lends to another address. But when we add this KYC system here, what we can actually do is we can locate it and we can recognize who is the borrower. So basically it creates an incentive for the borrower. And by using systems like Bloom or Uport, we can actually then enforce these loans. So it makes more incentivizing the borrower to return the assets back because of the kind of incentive that otherwise you will have bad credit rating or something in the real life. And that makes the lending kind of efficient without the borders. And that makes like the whole cornerstone of the global lending market.
Okay, I see. And will you please tell us in more details about the key benefits for your token holders?
Yeah, actually, our token is a bit different than usually. We try to have less speculation on the token and more function. And it's super simple. Actually, the main function of the Lend token is that the early adopters that are participating in our token sale, or the participants that might not be like interested in the lending, but might be interested in holding the token, is that they get 25% discount on our lending platform when they're actually using the token. So basically, in our platform, you pay with Ethereum, but you can pay with our token, and you get the discount. And the idea is here that when we have more and more user adaptation, like when we have lots of lenders, lots of borrowers, and the user acquisition is growing, people who actually are using actively, they actually want to get the token if they don't have it. They want to get the token from the market, from the token holders, and basically that drives demand which is based on the user product use. So when we have this demand and we have more and more users, basically there's more demand for the token, and then that correlates on the token price. And additionally, we're as an ETHLend, we are actually using 20% of the fees of the platform to buy these tokens from the market and actually repaying active lenders and borrowers. So the idea is not to create direct value to the token holders, but first channel the value to the product itself, and then channel that value to the token holders by the demand and by the success of the product. Okay. So it's a bit different, but I think that this is quite simple, but I believe this is more powerful.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And if you don't achieve the cap, what will happen with the project? Do you consider any other maybe alternative sources of crowdfunding? Traditional?
Yeah, it might be like we're always like saying no for the the private equity companies and hedge funds. I mean, people have been calling us from all the way from Wall Street to from San Francisco. So basically, we are avoiding these people and kind of trying to explain that this new model of funding, this ICOs, it actually eliminates a lot of stuff from your job and opportunities. And the way that these venture capitals we see is basically need to understand is that this token world and then kind of the ICO world is a bit different, and the opportunities, there are a lot of opportunities, but they are just with different kind of logic. And I think this kind of model, we're a good example that how a great team with a great product, or like product can actually grow without giving up capital to VCs. And basically, because when you give capital to venture capitalists, you're basically giving your voting right, you're giving away how the whole application should be developed. And basically, it's hard to follow something like roadmaps and stuff like that, because then the business logic that these guys have, they will come to you. So it's a mindset that we are trying to avoid, and we have been quite good on it. I mean, there has been like huge interesting opportunities and offers, and we have just said no. So we are quite proud of it as well. So
I see that you're quite optimistic about the future of the ICO market in general in the world. What can you say about it?
I think it will cool down. I think 2018 it will cool down, and I think maybe there will be more regulation in which is good actually, because I think like all the bad players should be removed, and also like what the regulation gives is this kind of good practices, how you should build a roadmap, how you should raise funds, what do you need to put on the white paper, and same stuff that has happened in crowdfunding in US and Europe as well. So I think like in terms of like idea of ICOs, that's kind of beautiful invention, but I think of course it needs some sort of ground rules so that it can be working way of getting funding for all the participants of the ICOs. So I think like in terms of projects, I think in 2008 there will be less kind of. I think there will be those ICOs which will reach the caps. They will be quite good ones. So I think like the participants will request more than this year. So I think those that are starting next year might have to do more work than we do. We work very hard, but I think you guys will have to work.
Sure about that. Okay, and now just in very, very brief, why should I invest in ETHLend?
Well, basically, in terms of participating in the token sale, I think if you want to participate in the token sale that actually has a real product at the moment, that actually has a platform that can be used doing like a test lending transactions, or actually doing a real transaction already, and you want to kind of support a team that is kind of diverse. They know what they're doing, and basically they're working hard for achieving something like good things. Because what we are actually aiming initially, because I believe like in every like business logic there should be some sort of a moral logic, and here I think like if you could somehow like eliminate different interest rates between countries, because in Finland if I walk to a bank I can get a loan for 1% or 2% like easily, but if a person walks in Russia, for example, to a bank, and we're talking about like inflate adjusted prices, it can be 12%, India 12, China 8%, or for example Brazil can be as high as 24%. So there's different like different interest rate globally. Mm-hmm. And I think like if we can provide a global liquidity market, maybe we can somehow reduce these interest rate differences and provide some sort of democracy to the lending. So if there's people that are actually supporting this aim, that's one reason to actually join our crowd sale.
Okay then, Stani, thank you so much for this interview and for being with us today.
Thank you, Anna, for having me.
Okay, and I remind you that today my guest was Stani Kulechov, a founder of ETHLend. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch more interesting videos. Bye-bye.